Before we go into the new album, I would like to ask some pre-Moby questions.
Okay.
You started playing music by learning the classical guitar. What was the first classical guitar piece you could play? Do you still remember?
Well, I started playing guitar when I was around 10 years old, and my music teacher was obsessed with complicated music. So he loved classical music and he loved contemporary jazz. So I started out studying music theory. I don't actually remember the first classical piece I ever played. It might have been something very simple like Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring, which is a pretty good one to start with if you don't know how to play guitar very well, because it's complicated but not so complicated that I couldn't play it.
Okay. This is for you. When did you get off the classical training and started doing your own guitar search?
Well, when I was quite young, so I started playing classical guitar, studying music theory, and my guitar teacher at the time would sort of force me to only listen to complicated music. And then I think when I was 13 or 14, I heard The Clash, and I completely fell in love with punk rock.
Why?
I fell in love with punk rock because it had a simplicity to it, and it had an energy, and it spoke to me so much more than some of the modern jazz I still love classical music and I love jazz, but when I was 13 or 14, punk rock spoke to me much more. And my music teacher at the time, he was so disappointed because he had just wanted me to only focus on very intricate modern classical music. And when I started playing in punk rock bands, he was really disappointed.
Have you ever spoken to him again afterwards?
Well, my music teacher when I was quite young, his name was Chris Rizzola, and he went on to play in a heavy metal band. I think they're called Steelheart. I'm not sure. And they had like a few MTV hits in the late 80s, early 90s.
So sounds a bit weird too for him to follow that path.
Well, I think he, as I said, his enthusiasm was for complicated music. So that's why he liked music theory and why he liked experimental jazz, but he also liked heavy metal because he could play really complicated guitar solos.
And for you, what did you learn from this classical training, and what did you use, let's say, in your career while recording albums?
As a musician, and I guess as a music listener, what I like about music is its ability to communicate emotion, and any genre of music can communicate emotion, whether it's classical music or hip hop or punk rock or dance music or jazz. But what I'm grateful for is that because I grew up with a very traditional musical background, studying music theory, no matter what genre of music I work in, I can remember what I learned when I was very young studying music theory. So I think it's nice to have a background in tradition and craft, whether you're a painter, photographer, musician, anything, and it helps you to do your work even if you're not working in that original genre.
Is it for you something that has to do with this? You were saying emotion. You're also a member of the board of directors of the Institute for Music and Neurologic Function. When were you first aware of the healing power of music?
Well, so I mean, I fell in love with music when I was really, really young, and I always loved music more than almost any other art form, but I never took it that seriously, and I never thought about it having healing properties. It was only when, I guess in my 30s, I started working with the Institute for Music and Neurologic Function.
Why?
Well, I started working with them because Oliver Sacks started them, and he's a hero of mine. Started the organization, he's a hero of mine. And I started looking at the research they were doing, the experiments they were doing, to see that not only is music fun, and not only is music emotional, it also actually has the ability to be a remarkable sort of neurological healing modality. And it can do amazing things to almost like technically rewire the brain and to promote neurogenesis, which is the brain's ability to keep growing and creating new brain cells.
So what are the latest developments in that field? Do you know what can be done?
In the world of music therapy, specifically neurological music therapy, what they've known for a long time is that music facilitates healing, and that music, like people who are Alzheimer's patients, can actually regain a lot of their neurological functioning through music. and people who've had strokes can regain a lot of their physical and cognitive abilities through music. What they're trying to do now is research so they can present it to Congress so they can get funding for what they're doing. So I don't know if they're necessarily making a lot of breakthroughs. They're just trying to document the breakthroughs that they've already made.